Hello and welcome to this fresh new edition of Climate Clock. The world is not only moving towards sustainability as a theme, but also investing in sustainable avenues. In fact, a lot of these organizations have seen the first mover advantage when it comes to investing in sustainable ventures and Fireside ventures. And of course, Mr. Kanwaljit Singh, they have seen the first mover advantage when it comes to investing in sustainable D2C brands as well. So is sustainable investing picking up? What does this mean for businesses as a whole? So let's invite the man himself, Mr. Kanwaljit Singh, to discuss this with us on the show. Mr. Singh, thank you so much for joining us today and speaking with CNBC TV 18 on Climate Clock.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Okay, so clearly ESG is very close to your heart when it comes to investing, but you have been one of those who has seen the first mover advantage here. So just generally wanted to understand what made you think that, okay, ESG investing is a theme that could pick up going forward, and this is when no one was even talking about it.
So, we started investing in what we call digital brands or D2C brands about 7-8 years ago. And one of the big things that we realized very early on is not only do these brands offer, good, better for you products, better for you value to the consumers, and therefore they are making a difference. They are disrupting the digital brand landscape. But also there is a significant sense of both appreciation and concern about environmental and other societal issues with these very exciting young founders. So it was almost like a convergence of not only great value creation for the consumer, but also for trying to fit it into some format of ESG, which would be beneficial for both the company as well as for the consumers and the planet. So I would say it was a happy coincidence that when we started looking at brands, there was also a built-in ESG charter. And then obviously over the last 5-6 years, we have done a lot of work in building that into more of an ecosystem and how we can, make it more institutionalized.
Oh, definitely. And the way it has picked up, not only the options about D2C brands or the opportunities out there, even the ESG investing or ESG as a theme has picked up as well. So yes, there's a shift in investment theme for sure. Are you seeing a shift in consumer themes as well? Are consumers preferring more sustainable products? Generally, what are you seeing here? And what does it mean for the D2C community as a whole? Also because after COVID, consumer patterns have changed.
Sure, absolutely. So I think there is a huge sense of realization among consumers. And we saw two interesting trends, like you mentioned. One was significant focus on wellness. So the consumer is becoming more and more, conscious about what they eat, what they consume, what they put on their bodies, but also very conscious about what's happening to the planet and the environment around us. So today, if you have a product which claims, that it is plastic neutral, the company claims that they are environmentally doing things to help solve some of these problems. And of course, globally, we have seen companies like Allbirds and Patagonia, etc., who have really built an entire multi-billion-dollar business using sustainability as a theme. Even in India, we are seeing, for example, one of our companies, which is a brand called Mama Earth, they have promised to plant a tree for every product that a consumer buys directly from them. And I believe in last count, there are almost 500,000 trees that they are planted. And they geotag them and they actually send the consumer a detail of saying, this is the tree in this location that has been planted in your name because you bought a product from us and obviously they're all natural, etc. So it's becoming a very interesting ecosystem play. So I think that's one very important development. Second development is that, as you called it, it's becoming broader and broader an issue which the entire community and the entire ecosystem is recognizing as a dire requirement right now. And obviously, the floods in Bangalore recently, where we are located, were a huge wake-up call for all of us. So what we are seeing now is that there are companies which are doing specific work in this space. There are companies like Disposal Company, there are companies like Lupro, there are companies like Climbs, which are helping solve these problems for the startup companies like ours. We are also seeing significant work happening in the large players like, the Levers, the Nestles, the ITCs of the world. So we are also trying at Fireside to see if we can bring a lot of these elements together and create more of a, almost like a industry or an ecosystem level initiative, which can help each other to really move the needle to the next level, because I don't think we have too much time left.
Yeah, we don't. So in that case, Mr. Singh, have you identified any more opportunities here? You have been a pioneer in the D2C investing theme. Anything more climate related, say climate tech, the smaller startups, as you said, that you've been trying to bring all of it together. Anything that you've identified?
Yeah, so the names I mentioned, these are companies that we have decided to partner with at this point of time. So all these are young startups, they're doing really well, and they are providing solutions which actually apply across the entire portfolio. So our first step in this space was that, let's first identify strong partnerships. And we have somebody in-house who actually is managing this whole as a program. So it's not just, ad hoc, one-off thing, running it like a program. So the first step is to continue to work with partners who will help our B2C brands, which can then be spread across over 30 brands that we've already invested. And then in parallel, we will also start looking at, whether we would like to start investing in some of these companies. So the first step we have taken is more a partnership approach. But like you mentioned, there are lots of new funds that are starting to emerge who are specifically focused on climate tech and climate investing, and we are working with all of them as partners in the ecosystem to work together.
Okay, just a ballpark figure, if you can tell us, the kitty you would have set aside for investments in, say, climate-related ventures out there.
So, honestly, we don't have a specific allocation like that. We obviously look at businesses, but I can tell you that almost 95% of our investments goes into brands and companies which are extremely conscious about environment and how they are helping support the environment cause. So in a way, it's almost like you're trying to, create a groundswell of environment focused businesses. But we don't have any allocation specifically for climate tech, to answer your question.
Okay, point taken, Mr. Singh. But in general, so what's happening is that yes, we can invest in ESG products or sustainable investments, but there's a cost to that as well. For example, it may be more, it may be more environmental friendly to use a certain kind of product, but it could cost consumers much more. And the term that everyone uses is greenflation. Do you think that is a possibility, and how can one actually deal with that?
So, there are several ways to think about this. Obviously, if the price goes up by, 40, 50%, 100%, then it's going to be very difficult to justify to the consumer. How do you manage that? India is still a price sensitive market. So one option that we are seeing is that if we can collectively create solutions and therefore achieve some economies of scale, then the impact on pricing becomes significantly easier, and you can then pass on a very small premium to consumers. And like I said earlier, consumers are willing to pay that premium if it is a reasonable amount. So that is one interesting possibility. Second option that a lot of companies have started doing is that there are solutions which allow companies to become plastic neutral, which allow them to recycle, or they support recycling as a part of their overall business. And for that, they are even adding these very interesting little additional elements to their checkout carts. When you go online and you want to buy something, you can see a message in several companies saying, add 5 rupees to allow us to recycle the amount of plastic that you bought from us in the form of packaging. So there is another way of actually engaging consumers to offset some of these costs. Third is that the actual packaging itself, especially the single-use plastic, there are lots of new solutions coming which are becoming cost-effective, and that is why the industry-wide initiative is so important.
Oh, yes, it is. And we are seeing a lot of actions being taken on the policy side as well. Mr. Singh, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining us today and making sense of what's happening as far as sustainability, investing and consumer preferences are concerned as well. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you. Pleasure.
All right, with that, it's a wrap in this edition of Climate Clock. Do stay tuned, more coming up on CNBC TV 18.